there, Soul Shines. It's Michelle here, and I'm inviting you to wake up and live. And I was asking myself, what message can I give you guys? How can I help you live a bigger than life, or how can I feel bigger than life? And because I just really wanted to give you a great message, right? And I had a thought about a message that was shared today from super wonderful woman. I absolutely love watching her videos. And just in case you want to know, that's Come Learn and Grow with Ann. She is amazing. And she was talking about dreams that she's had of her father. Well, I've had dreams of my mom recently, and my dreams have not been like her dreams. Her dreams sound incredible. My dreams felt like nightmares. It wasn't visits with her. It was very disturbing to me, and we both had emotions that we've had to deal with because of it, which is just great. But I had a different experience than her. And sometimes when I hear people talk about dreams, I get a little jealous. I very rarely have ever had a dream that meant anything. My daughter, she knows when she's dreaming. I don't know when I'm dreaming until I wake up and I was like, well, that was a weird dream. So I have very different experiences than a lot of people, especially in the healing world. My dream experience is very different. And it could be really frustrating sometimes. I could be like, oh my gosh, something's wrong with me because I don't do this, that, or the other. And that gave me the idea of what we want to talk about today. So sometimes I will tell people to visualize something. And then I'll have this little voice remind me that not everybody is visual. And that's what I really want to talk about, is not everybody is the same. We all receive inspiration in different ways. We all have different spiritual gifts, or if you want to call them psychic powers. We all have different ways. And I can do visualization, and it is one of the methods that I have come to me, is that visual, but it's not my dominant or main way of doing it. And there are people that don't even have any visual at all. But I promise you, you have some method of intuition. You have some method of doing it. Maybe you have a commanding voice, and when you speak what's happening, it happens. Or maybe you hear things in your mind's eye, or even physically. Maybe you hear them, and that's your way of receiving. So for me, I don't usually receive in dreams. It is very rare for me to have a dream, and when I do have those dreams, I wake up with a knowing that what I dreamed about mattered, and that I needed to pay attention, and that it was prophetic or had some kind of meaning. When a dream has a meaning for me, I wake up with that knowing. But that has happened, I think, maybe 5 times in the last 10 years. It just doesn't happen often for me. It's just not my main method of receiving. I don't get flashes I probably maybe 5 times have had a flash of something happening. I tend to know things, and I tend to hear things. I'm one of those people that would often hear people calling my name, and I look and there's nobody there. I have a very concrete experience of that, where I was in a waiting room waiting for my husband at the time to come out, and I heard a man's voice call my name from over here, and I turned, and there were no men there. There was a few women, but there were no men, and I know exactly who it was. It was my grandfather, and it was a very poignant experience for me. I remember as a little girl coming into the room and saying, "Mom, did you guys call my name?" I have a lot of experiences where I've heard things physically, but also I hear like when I have thoughts going on in my head, I can usually tell who's saying them. It's really kind of weird. Like, they don't always have a distinct voice to them as far as the way we hear voices, but I can always tell that they belong to different people. So it's fascinating. And so that is my gift. I'm going to pause this for a sec. Okay, sorry. There were people getting in the car next to me. They're still getting in. I don't know how loud their car is going to be. It's okay. So my daughter, she has an amazing sense of smell, and she smells things that aren't there. Um, so she'll have smells that remind her of specific people. We were having a conversation one day, and she's like, "It smells like cigarette smokes," and I was asked her a few questions, and we decided that it was somebody that I knew. And when I asked about a specific person, she said, "Yes, that's who it is," and then the smell went away. And that person happens to be my uncle, who's the only person I could think of that was a smoker that would have any reason to come around me that we knew. So that was interesting. It was interesting to have that experience with her, to help her also to kind of get a little understanding of what her particular gift is. So she has a scent that reminds her of home, the feeling of home, and she has certain scents that remind her of different things. She says death and illness are some of the worst scents ever, and I can imagine that that's probably true. So everybody has different ways that they receive their information, and you may be like not a visual person and somebody tries to do a guided imagery with you. Don't worry about it. Just be thinking, just tell yourself that all of these things are happening. You don't have to see it. Just you like, okay, so now it's like you're narrating a book. So now the light is coming in through the top of my head. And you don't have to see it. You don't have to feel it. Just narrate it as if it's happening, and it will happen for you. The really key factor here is to, instead of getting jealous of how other people receive, start asking questions. Well, how do I receive? And what are my gifts? So that you can start becoming aware of your gifts. And there are, like, I could never smell like my daughter smells. I think that's amazing. I can also see how it would be a challenge. But the same thing happens with all our gifts. Being able to, having an auditory one is really hard because people go around like calling you schizophrenic. And so then it's like, I don't want to tell people that I hear voices because they're going to say I'm schizo. When I know that I know exactly what it is, and I'm not crazy. It's my spiritual gift. It's my clairaudience is what it's called in the psychic world. Is clear hearing. That's what I do. And that's my gift. I do wonder if people who are schizophrenic have that as their main thing, and then have other things that amplify it to a point where they go over an edge of kind of crazy. And I have met some people that they are on the edge of crazy, or they've gone over into crazy. And I could see how easily it could happen. And it happens with people having visions. It happens with everything. So I have to remember when somebody says, I had this dream, and I don't have dreams, to be like, that's okay. I receive in other ways. And when my daughter says I smell somebody around me, it's okay because I can hear them or receive thoughts from them or have a knowing about them. And that's okay. We all have our different ways of receiving. And that was my message for you guys today, is you have your own way of receiving. Don't be jealous of the way other people receive. Start by asking, what are my gifts? What am I good at? How do I receive? Start asking those questions. Recognize what you have. Eventually, maybe you will develop some of the other ones. I think that you're never going to develop something else until you actually recognize what you have. So if you are a clairaudience person and you're trying to develop clairvoyance, which is clear seeing, and you're not getting very far, have you actually acknowledged that you're clairaudience? Have you developed the clear hearing to a point where you're ready to receive the next gift? I think that this is my belief. I think that we're all pre-wired with the order of operations, if you will. Like in math, order of operations is you do this function first, and then you do this function, then you do this function, then you do this function, and you go from right to left and you do the whole function, and then you'll get the right answer. And if you do the operations out of order, you don't get the right answer. I think that we all have our own unique order of operations. So for me, it's that knowing and hearing first. I'm not sure which one's which, so that's why I say it the way I do. And then comes visual, and then I can do some of the others. So if I've developed my knowing and if I've developed my audio, then I can develop further my clairvoyance. But if I just skip the knowing and the audio and just try to go straight for developing clairvoyance, it's going to be hard for me. I need to develop the gifts that I have first and use those ones first, and those ones can actually help me develop my next ones. So if you're clairvoyant and you want to be a clairaudience, maybe you have that scent one in between. So you get to develop your sight, then you develop your smell, and then you develop your hearing or something like that. You're going to have your own unique order of operations. So there's nothing to be jealous of. It's something for you to be like, oh my gosh, that's so awesome they have that gift. What gift do I have? Okay. That is my very long message for you. I love you guys so much. Remember, everybody, to let your light shine big, bright, live, and beautiful. Be the incredible you that you were designed to be, and I'll see you next time.